morning and welcome back to the winter of our discontent. I had to get a Shakespeare reference in there.
Get it in.
This winter, it just does not seem to want to end. I always reference one year I was out picking recyclables outside of town, March 16th. So all the snow is gone by March the 16th. I'm not seeing that happening.
No.
Justin, good morning.
Hello.
Yeah.
It's quite the winter. It's only in northern Alberta that I've noticed that I've heard people say the phrase, wow, it's warmed up to minus 16 today.
Minus 16 is like summer weather up here. Yeah, and you know, we just came back from Canmore and Calgary where they got walloped with snow.
Gross.
So there's no concern around dryness and fires. In fact, it's kind of the opposite concern. My brother-in-law is I think he's like a hydrologist, a forest hydrologist, and he said conditions are ripe for a potential flood should we have lots of rain in the spring, so be prepared for that. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Man, watch out, Canmore. Wow.
Justin is the artistic director of Theatre Just Because, among many other things, including a professional comedian, actor, and with some other solutions, what is your official role?
The events and marketing program coordinator. So basically, I get to brag about all the awesome stuff that happens at Some Other Solutions.
Are you an astronaut on weekends?
Every other weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I know you've done this show before. Hannah was filling in for me.
That's correct.
That time. But today we're going to talk about a couple of different things, one of which is probably one of my favorite things, which is Shakespeare. Yeah. And the fact that you Theatre Just Because, are nearing the end of your process?
That's correct. We're moving into the final phase of the program, which is the production. This weekend, March 10th and 11th at the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts, Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m. for $10, you can come and see A Kid Summer Night's Dream, written by William Shakespeare, but adapted by Theatres Because.
How do you go about adapting a piece like this for younger kids?
What was interesting was going through the text. Thankfully, it's a piece that I had the privilege of being in many years ago, and about a year or so ago, I actually got to watch it, and that's what gave me the idea of, I would love to see this production happen in Fort McMurray. And then the opportunity for the youth play came up, and I'm thinking, what if these elements that I was so drawn to, could they be performed by youth, children age 12 to 16? Could they take this on? And from reviewing the text and just finding the story, these are themes that are universal, themes of love, heartbreak, frustration, mischief, and a little bit of magic. Those are things that are found in the text that I think that they were ready to take on. And what it meant was, for when they went into the rehearsal process, it was, wow, this is going to be step one, figure out what we're saying. So they got to take on the challenge of looking at Shakespeare's text. Some of it, elements of the play, they just weren't necessary, just for the sake of the size of the cast. And it was like, do we need this part of the story? Can we still tell this singular narrative without certain details? Can we abridge it? Can we just tighten it up just to stay on track? And it's been working so far. Anyone who is familiar with the play, they'll know that we've stayed faithful to the story and kept it youthful. There's some youthful flair in it, I think.
Two questions. How many kids do you have involved, and when did you start?
We have a group of 14 youths. They're aged 12 to 16, with one exception is actually a 10-year-old who I met through mentoring in Some Other Solutions. Nice. And they approached asking if he could join, and I said, yeah, I know him, and I think he's ready. And he's definitely learned a lot. And we began working mid-October, just about a week after Alberta Culture Days, give or take. So we went right into it, and we've been meeting twice a week for the span of 6 months, which is a bit of a different rehearsal process, as I'm sure you're aware. Normally, you would meet on a little bit more of a consistent basis, but this program is one part after school, extracurricular, another part building a show. So we're trying to layer in elements of professional comportment, what you can expect when in a rehearsal, but also we've got the deadline. We're also building towards something. So we're keeping them accountable with the show. So the stakes are high, and it's sometimes it feels like, oh, how are we going to get it all in? But really, it's just you can only work with what's there. You can only do with what we have the capacity for. And when I was offered the position of artistic director, part of the clause was Michelle Thorne. She said, "There's a youth play," and I'm thinking, oh gosh. That's not what I graduated from the National Theatre School of Canada to do. I didn't want to direct a youth play, but I'm like, fine, I will take it on. I ended up loving it. And she said, as she handed it over to me, you have one objective: make them love theater, make them want to do it again. And whatever happens in this production, whether we sell out the show, it'd be great if we did, whether they think, oh, I didn't give it my best, I could have been better, I might have forgot a line. As long as they can come back and say, I want to do it again and I want to be better, that's what I want from them, to keep going and be better. And one of the lucky things about having worked with Some Other Solutions, I've spent some time with the child and youth team in their summer camp program back when I was a student. One of the big things we tried to instill in youth is empowerment and resiliency, to get back up and to keep going. So I've learned a lot from the mentors were almost like my mentor. Izzy Castillo and TJ Carabeo, back when he worked at Some Other Solutions, they had a profound impact on me as to how you can work with youth. And I really tried to instill that sense of empowerment in the youth. So being encouraging, giving them really critical feedback, but knowing they can take it. And I would check in with them just to say, where are you at today? Are you okay? Like, yes. And consistently it's like, that's tough, but I want to do it again. And we would go and go and go. Never let them stay down.
There is something both challenging and endearing about Shakespearean text.
Yes.
So challenging in that when you're exposed to it for the first time,
yep.
and I vaguely remember I might have been grade 8 or grade 9, it's hard to pick up at first. Mm-hmm. But when you memorize that first monologue, which
yep.
all of us had to do,
yep.
why is it that 40 years later, I can still recite To Be or Not to Be? What is it about Shakespeare, and does that special attribute of Shakespearean text, are you seeing it with these young kids at this stage?
I'm seeing it in phases, in some of them especially, of really getting it. I actually don't memorize the lines. Learn the lines, learn the intention, learn the objective. What do you want? Because I'm really trying to get them out of their academic brain. They've just spent 8 hours in school, 5 days a week. Memorize this, memorize social studies. I got to learn the dates. This is so different. You're utilizing such a different part of your artistic self when working with text. And the best note I ever got for when working on Shakespeare was, Justin, stop performing Shakespeare. Treat it like text. Learn your intention. What do you want? How do you get what you want? And the text will serve that. And what's great about Shakespeare is he doesn't think the thoughts, he speaks the thoughts. And he puts it into the words. There's no extra. He says what he means, and he means what he says. There's Hamlet. There's the speech that Hamlet spoke to his actors in the play within the play. To look at that scene, that's actually Shakespeare. Kind of, he's dipping his pen in his own ink, so to speak. He's really giving notes to how actors should be working the text. Speak the speech, I pray you, trippingly on the tongue. None of this foolish hand waving. I cleave the air to signify import. What does that really do? Speak the text. Speak it, say what you mean, and mean what you say. So that's what I've really been trying to layer into the kids. Some of them, it's right over their heads, and that's okay. That's okay. Some of the funniest moments in rehearsal are, it's like, all right, how'd you feel about that? Yeah, it was pretty good. All right, what would you say you were trying to do? No idea. What were you trying to say? Not a clue. It's like, all right, let's take a minute here. And so we break down, just like translating line by line, phrase by phrase, section by section. But the big thing I want to get out of them is it's okay to not know. You don't have to come in being an expert. I'm not expecting that. I'm not even expecting you to leave as an expert. You can come in and make mistakes. Say that you don't know, and it's so okay to not know. Just admit it. Just open up and just say, all right, let's figure it out together then.
Justin Shaw is our guest this morning. He is, I assume you're directing.
Yes.
Yeah, and you did the, what do you call it? The abridged version of the play.
Yes.
Which is great. And it's coming up this weekend. 2 shows, Saturday and Sunday, you said?
That's correct. 1 p.m.
Gosh, my memory's unbelievable. I don't have any of this written down.
You got to learn more Shakespeare. Keep that brain going.
And it's at the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets are $10. How long is the show? How much did you manage to trim it down?
It's approximately 90 minutes. It's a tight little play.
90 minutes. So it's a full production.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. Is it stripped down of all the glitz and glamour, or do you have set and costumes and all that kind of stuff?
There's costumes. The sets are sparing. We actually received a lovely donation from the Holy Trinity Theater Academy. They have a great program there. I don't know if you saw Shrek, the musical that the high school put on. Beautiful set pieces, and there was one little thing. There's a tree. Had my eye on that tree, and I was like, who do I need to ask to borrow that? So just a little flourish, just something to enhance the scene around them. But really, if it were up to me, it'd be theater blacks, just black shirts, and the kids go. Yeah. But added a little something, just to give it some visual dynamics, because you don't want to bore the audience.
Again, my guest, Justin Shaw from Theater Just Because. We're going to take a break and come back with more of Impact. This program is a team effort of a lot of different organizations. United Way, Fuse Social, YMM Magazine, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, and our friends here at 91.1 The Bridge. Good morning. Welcome back to the show. I'm getting very excited about this weekend. We've got the Music and Mission Showcase for 91.1 The Bridge. It's up at Shell Place, and I'm going to be doing a live painting. They said, well, what would you like to do, Russell? And I said, well, I like to paint. And they said, okay. So I'm going to do a portrait of Jesus, I think, coming up on Saturday night. And if you don't have your tickets yet, it's always an immense amount of fun. It also raises some much-needed money for this incredible work that the radio station does in King's Kids Promotions. My guest this morning is Justin Shaw. Justin is in the community full-time now. He was coming back and forth, it seems, because Justin, I went and looked at my Facebook, and the first communication we had was a long time ago. It was like 2014.
Yep. That was my first summer here.
I had hair back then. Well, 3 of them anyway. So you were coming back and forth.
Yes.
You've mentioned that you went to the National Theatre School, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in Prince Edward Island, the East Coast.
Really?
Yes. I lived there until my early 20s when I finished my Bachelor of Arts, and had all this education, no idea what to do with it. I was able to earn a nice Bachelor of Arts in history, but I also earned myself a nice student loan debt. Oh. So I did what every good-hearted Maritimer does, to go out west and work in the arts. Clearly, that's the way to go. But I went out here, and during that same summer, I was accepted to the National Theatre School, and then it became hey, let's just live here for my summers and help pay off my schooling. And it's been very supportive.
Was there something or someone early in your life that somehow influenced and or inspired you to get involved in theater, comedy, and the things that you are doing now?
Absolutely. That would be Dr. Gregory Doran of Vagabond Productions back home in Prince Edward Island. That was the residence theater company at the University of Prince Edward Island. Just had a profound impact on me. He challenged me in so many capacities as a student, as an artist, as an actor, as so many different things. And he was also just a bit of a cult of personality, you know what I mean? He had kind of like one of those like eccentric, over-the-top personalities. I'm sure you know nothing about that.
Nope.
But just very... He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, and I respected that a lot. And that's something that I wish I could be more outspoken sometimes, but this was a person that just didn't shy away from what he had to say, and it really inspired me. And every time he was the type, he'd have like 4 critical things to say, and then like maybe one like positive thing just to keep you going. But I auditioned for him in I think my second year of my 5-year BA, and I got a small part, and I was like, that's enough. Like I'm so happy just to be part of the team. And then the next year, I was like, well, I want a little bit more. I want to be funny. So he helped me like find it was in Taming of the Shrew, it was the Shakespeare comedy. He helped me find my comedic voice. Then it went great. But then the next year I said, well, I'm not just funny. Like, I can do other stuff. So I went up for the drama, and I got that. And then I went the final year for my practicum. By then, he had been one of my closest colleagues at the school. I did the 5-year plan opposed to the 4-year, so people I'd started with had graduated, and we would spend time just catching up on theater, on life, and he coached me on my monologues for the National Theater School, and when I got in, had the biggest hug waiting for me when I came home. So I was very happy to have him as not just a theater coach, but as a life mentor. And a lot of his methods, I draw upon just because I trust it so implicitly. So I try to bring that into my own rehearsal process with the youth, to give them that sense of, I want to keep going. I want to do this more and more and more, because who knows where it can take you. I didn't expect it to take me anywhere. My original plan was to be a history teacher in Montague, Prince Edward Island, but life has a change of plans for me, and I just want these youth to know that there's so much ahead of them. They don't have to have it all figured out by the time they graduate high school, but there's so much more they can achieve if they just know how much potential they have. All they have to do is to have someone invest in them in order for them to invest in something.
5 years, BA,
Yep.
Prince Edward Island University.
That's correct.
You then went to the National Theater School. How many years did you spend there?
3.
You were in school 8 years?
8 years.
How's the therapy?
It's well, the government of Canada, I owe them a bit of money, but hey,
Wow.
Fort McMurray.
That's a long time.
But,
I'm
yeah.
interested to know, because you and your colleagues at Theater Just Because are creating things.
Yes.
You're creating work for yourselves. You're creating partnerships. You're building something from practically nothing. Did those skills of doing that come from university, or is it something that you've picked up since?
A bit of both. While I was in university, I took upon a lot of admin roles for the student-led theater organization. And I was like, oh, well, no one's planning these events. Well, I better do it, or else it won't happen. And that kind of became the prevailing attitude for a lot of things. And then people started calling me the head of the society. And I was like, well, let's not go throwing around job titles here. I'm just the one doing it. But then it just kept happening. And I loved organizing stuff, and making things happen had been my mantra for the last part of my undergrad. And it kind of stayed with me. And then going into Montreal to the National Theater School, it just opened up my well of my artistic self. I've just learned so much more about the process of creation, as specifically as a performer. But even there, I was like, I want more. So I looked into a playwright program, the Playwrights Montreal Youth Unit, and so I joined that and met once a week to write a play that I did here, the wrestling play, and then. I want more, and so I started doing stand-up more extensively. I'd done it for about a year before I moved there, but then I started doing clubs and getting some pretty good gigs, and just wanting to get better and do more. So that time spent in Montreal was more training myself, like feeding my own artistic self. But now coming back here, I find myself going back to my university self, who wants to make stuff happen. But now I feel I have a lot more capacity to actually give to other artists, and show them that they have the capacity in themselves to do things. And sure, my training has afforded me some insight as to how to bring out even more authenticity in a performance or in an overall production. But really, the mission has been revitalized from the time I started to empowering the artist to take ownership of their work. And that's for now, without any, like you said, we're from the ground up. We're just making what we can. Right now, our most sustainable resource is the artist. And we need artists. And we need artists to believe in themselves and to keep coming back hungry, wanting more.
Yeah, and your chance to see some young up-and-coming artists coming up this weekend with the kids' Summer Night's Dream being put on by Theatre Just Because. I think 14 kids, you said?
14.
And they're on stage at the Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts on Saturday and Sunday. My guest is Justin Shaw, the artistic director of Theatre Just Because. When we come back, we're going to talk about a comedy experience coming up that you will not want to miss. This is Impact, a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, YMM Magazine, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray. Matt's here making us look awesome. And our friends here at 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back. Our guest today is Justin Shaw, the artistic director of Theatre Just Because and director of the production of a kids' Summer Night's Dream coming up this weekend. He is also a busy comedian in the community and elsewhere. He's done a lot of stand-up. He is a graduate of the National Theatre School and Prince Edward Island University. I just love the name of that, Prince Edward Island University.
It's actually University of Prince Edward.
Oh, is it? I got okay.
PEIU. That'll be our university when we go back.
I can't even say it. PEIU.
You PEI? You did what in your eye?
Exactly. You have a comedy event coming up.
That's correct.
In support of some other solutions. Tell us about it.
Sure. It's called Spare Change, an evening of comedy, and it's intended to serve as a fundraiser and an awareness event for some other solutions. And it features some local artists such as Dylan Thomas. Woo-hoo. Hey, we know that guy. Erica Moscow has been doing a lot of fantastic stuff in the community. She's really jump-started the stand-up scene in town, and I want people to know how influential she's been for a lot of aspiring stand-up comics in town. So I'm really happy to have her on board. Dave Bootler, who, again, another mover and shaker in town with Thunderstruck Improv. He's done a lot of fantastic stuff for people. And then myself, working with some other solutions, understanding we had a history of doing stand-up for mental health. While we're not working with the same organization as we were in the past, we've just moved on into other territories. I thought, well, why don't we do something, get the local artists to come in and explore the subject of mental health in perhaps a different way. And in my own material, which I'm actually developing with Diana Moser from Theatre Just Because, I'm really trying to explore the concept of what it means to listen. And in regards to mental health, there's so much discussion being had right now of we need to talk, we need people to talk. And it's a lot of talking, which is great that people can open up. But I think the next step is who's listening? Who's ready to listen? Can we listen to each other while we're talking? How do we engage as people through human connection? And so that's why I think live performance, and especially something as visceral as comedy, and my stand-up's typically quite theatrical in a sense anyway. There's a lot of direct address. But just to connect with an audience on this subject, just to really engage them on this, what I think is a very important subject.
I've always wondered, because I've never done stand-up, what is the creative process to developing a routine? Is it something you do in the bathtub, in the shower? Like is it something that you write down and then speak? How does it work for you?
Well, at this event, you'll actually find out.
Wow.
Part of my performance is maybe not so much Seinfeldian in maybe some partial ways, but my objective is to highlight the importance of listening as to like why stand up. But I would love to be able to screw off the top of the head of a stand-up comedian and dump the brains out, and you get to see just how much chaos is involved in developing this material. And for me, it's different for everybody. For me, it's it's about storytelling, and sometimes the cadence of the story, it can be set up punchline, like kind of quick, like some jokes that find themselves in a flow. But really, for me, I can only speak for myself. My mantra has always been, be the stand-up comedian you'd want to see. And so I try to tell stories, talk about subjects that I really care about, because if it's something I care about, I think that'll come across in the performance. I don't want to just do jokes that just get laughs. It's like I talk about any subject that I'm not actually invested in. So I invest a lot of myself in my work. So sometimes that means going through my personal thought catalog of what are some crazy things that have happened to me. But as I started doing stand-up, I started noticing, wow, I have some weird interactions with people. Strange things happen to me. It must be because the world knows I'm a stand-up comedian. And then I thought, I don't think it's that. I think I'm just becoming more aware of my surroundings, just observing so much more and discovering just how weird of a world we live in, that so many, like, these things can affect me. And yeah, so really just paying close attention to the idiosyncrasies of those around me, the bizarreness, the almost poetic irony of events that can only happen by, in some ways, coincidence. But of course, chaos theory would come into effect here. Of course, this would happen. And my job is to write them down and tell the story of it and share it with people.
I imagine that awareness is the key.
Yeah.
Because stuff happens to all of us every single day.
Yeah.
But most of us don't pick it up, don't archive it. But I bet your brain is always, okay, that'd be funny.
Yeah, exactly. Like in conversations, I try to listen to, if I say something funny just off the cuff and I make someone laugh, I check myself. It's like, are they laughing at the joke? Are they laughing at the timing? Are they laughing because it was how I delivered it? Is there something about that is at its core repeatable? Is that something I could do again? Or is it just goofy for the sake of goofy?
Have you ever been in front of an audience, both either acting theatrically or doing a stand-up routine, when you had an out-of-body experience and you watched yourself performing?
Absolutely.
How did you bring yourself back?
Breath, breathe, just take a second, collect myself. I don't always go up with a glass of water, but sometimes that really does help. I've had moments where I just forget the joke, but I never crack. It's just this moment that if someone who really knew me saw me and looked in my eyes, there'd be that look of, oh God, what do I do? But then just to find a way to keep back on track. Generally, I've got a positive presence on stage, so I think people want to see me succeed. Yeah. Very rarely do they turn on me, but there are times that I perform for audiences where they're so not buying what I'm selling, and sometimes it's an age thing, and there's power in number and in age. If there are people that are just outside my demographic and they're the majority prevailing audience, and they came to see someone who tells their stories, they might not be buying what I'm selling specifically. And so it's tough, because then I'll do those same jokes, those same stories to another audience, and they'll enjoy it. And so then it's just, you tell those jokes to the people who don't care. You just stand there holding the mic, just wishing there was a trap door that would just open and you would plummet through. But in those moments, you do have the moments of, why do I do it? But then there are the moments where, yeah, this is why I do it. And those moments are sometimes rarer than this is such a slog. But when those moments come, it makes up for all past failures.
I saw Justin perform for the first time at the Arts Council Arts Awards. I can't remember the official name of it, the Art Showcase, whatever it was called.
Arts Council Wood Buffalo Excellence Awards.
Night of, yes.
Night of
at
excellence.
That night. And I was peeing myself, so it was really excellent. So I enjoyed it tremendously, and I'm not sure you surprised me in a most positive, wonderful way.
I'm glad.
So this event is called Spare Change.
Yes.
When and where is it?
April 7th at the Keanu Recital Theater.
Okay.
And it will be in the evening time. All ticket information will be made available within the next couple of days. So make sure you check it out. Follow Some Other Solutions on Facebook. Make sure you're keeping up with all the cool stuff we're putting out there. Yeah.
Yeah, keep up the great work, especially the work that you're doing with the young people. This community is so important for the health and vibrancy of our community and the theater scene.
Absolutely.
And good luck with the show this weekend. It's a kid's Midsummer Night's Dream at Suncor Energy Center for the Performing Arts, Saturday and Sunday at 1 o'clock, both shows. All right, Justin Shaw has been my guest. Thank you so much, sir.
Ciao.
Justin is the artistic director of Theater Just Because, also works with Some Other Solutions, a stand-up comedian here in the community, and he's doing a lot of great work. You've been listening to Impact. It is a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, YMM Magazine, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, and our friends here at 91.1 The Bridge.